So today's random phrase generated is flea market, a type of bazaar where inexpensive items are sold or bartered. I thought a flea market was where a bunch of booths were set up in an empty, grody, garbage-filled parking lot where people were just like selling trinkets and tchotchkes. But apparently it has a name, a type of bazaar where inexpensive items are either sold or bartered. So I guess, my definition still works. I'm doing this right now because I'm at the end of my run. I'm 2 blocks away from my house and I have to pee so bad. So hopefully with all of those constraints, it keeps this video tight and short. But if there was one place that I could describe is a flea market of sorts, I would say it's the whole planet. And let me explain why. When I run, I often get my greatest ideas in a state of forward momentum. I don't know why. Actually, I think I know why. It's because of transient hyperfrontality. Look it up. But the other reason is because I'm in this like weird liminal state and somewhat receptive to input or outside external ideas or impressions that can help mold, reshape, and refine my ideas. And I intentionally pick up trash while running. And I think from the outside, it looks like, oh, Carrie's doing a good thing. And yeah, it's like cleaning up the planet, although that's like an impossible pursuit. There's no way that I'm ever going to be able to pick up enough trash to make a noticeable difference. But the reason I actually pick up trash, outside of the fact that I watched my father do it growing up, going to the skate park with him, and he would go around picking up trash, and it would embarrass me as a kid, having all these other skaters being like, what is your dad doing? Like, he's picking up trash, and one of them, I remember one of the skateboarders kind of like hollering over at my dad, not knowing it was my dad, and then saying like, hey, dude, old man, like, why are you picking up trash? And my dad's response was so just perfectly timed. And he said, and he was lying when he said this. He's like, oh, I just got out of prison and my community service is picking up trash. Is picking up trash around like the local schools. And I guess the guy responded back. He's like, yeah, why is that? And my dad said something like, he's like, well, because there's usually like police and cop cars like around the school areas. Because, what I got put in prison for was... The kids were like, what the heck? This guy's nutty. But then he followed up with like, no, I'm picking up trash because I grew up in California and a lot of these skate parks got closed down because people would just litter and throw garbage and graffiti the whole thing. And it was a taint on the community and the society and city at large. And so I'm just preventing what's about to happen when you kids dismiss this area, this privilege you have of having a local skate park by throwing your trash everywhere and tagging it everywhere with your graffiti. And it like really shut the kids up. Anyway, so that made a positive impression on me. I picked up all the trash. The reason I'm bringing this up is because a flea market, in my opinion, is very similar to the world at large because you might not be exchanging money, but there are inexpensive items out in the world that you have access to and that you can barter with by exchanging or trading your time, your energy, and your attention with that thing, and then having that thing somehow mold or shape or refine you or your ideas. Case in point, I pick up trash because I see it as one, something that has been littered, has been taken for granted, and it has reached an economies of scale in an industry so prolific that it's incredibly inexpensive to make that product in mass. And so if I can pick up a piece of trash, or it's like a broken gear or eyeglasses or a phone or something to that effect, and then I can hold on to that piece of trash, I see it not as a treasure, but as a tool. One man's trash is another man's treasure. I see it as one man's trash is another man's tool if seen it as a flea market, and you're bartering or trading your time, your attention, and your energy for that thing to have it mold and refine you, or mold and refine an idea. So oftentimes when I go on a long run, I'll intentionally pick up trash, with the intent of throwing it away and whatnot, but really just to pick it up and go like, okay, this is a weird contraption. Never used this. I kind of know where it's like how it's made, but I'm now going to spend the next 6 to 8 miles running with the intent of like trying to reverse engineer how this thing is built, how this thing is manufactured. And oftentimes it's being in that space while in a state of progressive forward movement, getting into a state of transient hyperfrontality, and seeing the world as my own personal flea market. Good morning. I can begin to like merge and blend the ideas that are coming off of this thing, this inexpensive item, this piece of trash, with something that I'm working on, either a concept, a maxim, or a philosophy in my head, or some form of leverage, which is what I think of as any form of product or service or an invention that I'm currently working on. And what it does is, it really does. My most like unique ideas come from picking up trash and then simmering on how this thing was built, the piece of trash was built on a long run, and how I slowly get into like an alpha theta state. And once in that alpha theta state, my mind can begin to blend ideas together with the current product that I'm inventing. So if there was one thing that I could say, is that if you look and perceive the world in a way where it is your oyster, it is in one way, shape, or form its own flea market, and it's up to you to exchange and trade your energy, attention, and time with it. And as you interface with it, allowing it, the world, and in my case, picking up trash while I'm going on long runs, to refine you, or something that you're working on, I have found that getting into that state is where you actually come up with the best ideas or solutions to problems that you're working on. Which I feel is why when you're dealing with a real problem, whether it's a relational problem or a personal problem, like the antidote it's always to go and serve someone. Always go out and do like an act of kindness. Go serve in some way, shape, or form. Help someone else. It's because you're getting out of you, your selfish internal self, and you're getting into a state where you're oftentimes doing something physical, like doing gardening for someone or helping someone out with a chore or moving, or you're doing some sort of kindness. It puts you in a liminal state. And then in one way, you're kind of you're exchanging your time, attention, and energy with the world, and then allowing that thing, oftentimes the act of service that you're doing, to refine you. And then as being in that space where what emerges is a weird, novel solution to your problem. You'll be having a problem about like, how do I pay bills? Gosh, I'm thinking too much about myself. I need to think outward, other oriented. I need to go out and serve, help someone else. And as you're doing it, you go, oh my gosh, I've got like $1,000 worth of junk in my garage. I could just list that on Facebook Marketplace, take me an hour, and then that could just, I could sell a bunch of stuff, and that's how I pay rent this month. And like that came though, because like you went through your garage to grab, I don't know, your lawnmower, so that you could go over to the old lady's house across the street and help mow her lawn. And it was like by doing in that, and then you kind of catching on to these inexpensive items that are either trade or sold, and then being in that space, you come up with novel ideas. So today's random phrase generated is flea market. And I think the whole world, if seen in the right light, is a flea market. And it can be something where it can be a bazaar, a fun, entertaining, magical thing that if interacted with can transform you. Yeah.